Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing a video slash podcast on Tyler Perry. So it has been reported that Tyler Perry is finally getting a writer's room, and if this is true, I have to say that it is about time. Now, in a previous video I did about Tyler Perry, I ranked his shows that I've watched from the worst to the best in my subjective opinion. And I kind of gave him a lot more credit upon reviewing that video. I felt like I gave him more credit than I think he deserved, and that was because I started to see some of his new stuff, and then I started to more realize what people, especially his critics, which happen to also be his fans at this point, were saying. Now, in this video, I actually want to get to the pros and the cons of what I think about Tyler Perry, him as an individual, as well as him as a writer, producer, and director, and creator of all these shows and movies and pieces of content that we have grown up seeing him do over the years, as well as the current day. So, one pro of Tyler Perry is that what I respect about Tyler Perry is that he has provided jobs for up and coming or lesser well known actors and actresses, especially Black actors and actresses. One thing I notice, especially as it pertains to, Black people talking about the need to hire and support and build our own, which I am very much an advocate for. I think it's really good to see, especially someone who has accumulated and created all and built all this, not only wealth, but content and media, as well as being a Black man who did it. He recently, last year, opened up one of the biggest studios. I think it's bigger than some of the major owned studios. So that is really great of him. And I respect him for that. And I also respect him for providing jobs for people. I also do respect that he does keep, especially, I won't want to say older by age, but he keeps people who have been working in the past working. So, for instance, Felicia Rashad and Cicely Tyson, he keeps them working. And he also gives other people a chance. So, some of these people on his shows and in his movies, some of them I've never heard of before, but some I can definitely say that, hey, I know this person, especially if they go on to do other work. And also, there have been people who have been on his shows or in his movies that were able to break out and even be bigger than, what we ever thought they could be. So, for instance, China Anne McClain. I actually know China Anne McClain from being in Daddy's Little Girls, as well as her sisters. I know them from being in Daddy's Little Girls, which is a Tyler Perry movie. And I have that movie on DVD, by the way, side note. But I also know her from being on House of Pain, and she's back on it. But then she moved on and she did Ant Farm on Disney and Descendants. And she also does Black Lightning. And it has definitely it was definitely, in my opinion, a start or a leg up or a step forward for her to do bigger projects. Now she's definitely has a wider audience to who know her now, and that's good, especially as a Black actress. Another pro from Tyler Perry is that him coming from a lowly background and, from a poor start. I heard he was once homeless and living in his car, and then he started writing his screenplays. And when Hollywood said no, he started, building his own stuff, and he actually put, his, vision and drive to it. And he was able to build what he has built, and actually, which is actually incredible and is an example of Black excellence. Him wanting to own and put his name on everything is honestly good and bad at the same time, but it's good in a sense in this case where he even says it in an interview where ownership allows him to have ownership of his stuff, his name, his intellectual property. He's able to pass what he gets off of owning and stuff down to his son. Side note, he did break up with his longtime girlfriend of, so long, but they have a son together. And it pains my heart to see him not marry the person he has a child with, kind of already going into the stereotype that all Black men or all Black people do is procreate without marriage, but that is beside the point. I personally liked his old work, mainly his movies, because I was never really a fan of his plays. But, I was more of a movie person, especially I was very young when Diary of a Mad Black Woman came out. That came out in '06, I believe. So I really liked the movies. And to be honest, I really think his older work and his movies before Medea's Big Happy Family came out, movie and play, I was a big fan of his movies in the older days because I think they were better quality. I think they were better written. I definitely think they were better acted. And all the things that people are complaining about now, his older work was good, minus the tropes. Now, I'm going to get into the cons a little bit later. The last pro that I have that I can think of is that I feel he is living vicariously, or at least telling his story through his characters. So a lot of the times he has these copy and paste tropes. And I do think that he's been very open and honest with his pain and what he has been through, especially with abuse, especially seeing secondhand his mother go through the abuse that he went through with his father, he was open about this on Oprah's show back when she had a show. He said that his father, I think, was an alcoholic, and he was very abusive towards his mother and as well as him. He talks about his life of, sexual abuse, or he talks about that. And you basically can see, oh, so no wonder he tells his stories like this, because that's not only somebody else's story. Maybe he's lived through it himself as well. So it makes sense. And we do see that artists and writers and directors, not only do they take experiences, not only do they create their own experiences, like through the work of fiction and what they have in their own imagination, they also do take experiences and put them on screen or in literature from their own lives. So it's not uncommon to see him put this out there. But this leads to the cons that I'm going to get into. Now, one of the cons about his work, I really don't people, including me, are getting really tired of the same tropes of Black women, especially Black women, going through struggle, pain, drama, trauma, and bad relationships, whether, in life or with men or with themselves or whatever. I mean, the last good Tyler Perry movie, like I mentioned, in my opinion, was Medea's Big Happy Family. And that wasn't even all that. I felt like that was rushed. I felt like it was kind of copy and paste. And for once, I actually did enjoy the play version of that movie before I enjoyed the movie version. And I definitely do think that a lot of Madea movies after that seem to be very copy and paste. And he seems to be definitely working more with just putting Madea in any old movie. I mean, with Medea's Witness Protection, A Madea Christmas, I saw those two movies and they were really not all that. I'm just going to be honest. It was just another movie with Madea in it. And it just really, it was getting less and less funny. Nobody's Fool. I'm proud that Tiffany Haddish was getting work and the recognition she deserves. And the fact that he bought her a car was pretty cool. So he definitely keeps especially Black people working. So not only people who are popular, but people who are semi-popular or people who have been working in the industry for years, like a Cicely Tyson or Felicia Rashad. So it was really good and refreshing to see a Black man or a Black person still lend a hand and help Black people out. So I'm happy about that. One criticism I get from especially Black people or Black women specifically, because we tend to be his target audience, is that in these movies, the Black man who is really the antagonist or the villain or the abusive one are usually dark-skinned, and then light-skinned man to the rescue. Now, the only movie that I can really think of off top that Tyler Perry has done where the light-skinned man is actually the bad guy and the dark-skinned man is the good guy / protagonist is Daddy's Little Girls with Idris Elba playing Monty. And I have that movie on DVD. But I really start to look back, especially Gen Z, Black women. I see this on TikTok. They are definitely talking about Tyler Perry movies about how, it's a Black woman. It doesn't matter what her position is in life. She could be independent, strong. She could have her own business or make her own money, or she can be like Helen was, who never worked a day in her life, but just remained. Her only job was being Charles McCarter's wife. And he left her high and dry and broken after 18 years and everything. And it's either a Black woman in some trauma or drama relationships where she's either stuck on gone stupid with a man, or she's being used by a man, or she had it all before she met this man and then he took it all from her and caused her pain. Or it's the case of like Julia and Monty, where Julia is a six-figure high power attorney and who has her life going for her, and the man who's poor, Monty, who for whatever reason is he's a mechanic, but he's like working class blue collar, and he doesn't have money, but he's a good guy. It's kind of the same thing. Orlando, working class blue collar, and same thing with I forgot the guy's name. He was the bus driver on not the actor's name, the character's name. He was the actor on Medea's Family Reunion who took Vanessa out. So it just seems like, yeah, there's some nuance, but it's always like, a dark-skinned man does the female character, black woman character dirty, and then lighter-skinned man to the rescue. And I don't think, or whether Tyler Perry knows that's what he's doing or not, I really do think he's perpetuating colorism in that sense, especially with black women too, because sometimes it will also be a darker or brown-skinned woman going through drama and trauma and pain. Like, for instance, Medea's Goes to Jail. The girl, Candy, she was dark-skinned, played by Keisha Knight Pulliam, and she was a drug addict / prostitute. Meanwhile, Josh, who, got with her and tried to save her because of his guilt, but he was almost going to get married to the light-skinned, power attorney as well. So, I mean, again, sometimes they're more nuanced when you pay attention to it, but it definitely seems like there is too much of a copy and paste with his movies and shows. A Fall from Grace seemed to be the final straw when it came to Tyler Perry. I just have to say that. Another thing too, the wigs. I didn't really notice when people were talking about the wigs, but when I finally saw A Fall from Grace, I definitely understand what people were talking about. I didn't realize this until I saw A Fall from Grace, and I noticed even the character Tyler Perry was playing, and I did not like that person's character, nor did I like the wig. The wig with the beard coming down, you could tell that thing was glued on. Like Tyler Perry, people have even said, with all this money you've accumulated, with all this wealth, and Forbes named you a billionaire, congrats to you, but I'm pretty sure you can hire people and stylists to get better wigs. They don't have to be all these $100, $1,000 wigs, because I heard there are wigs that do cost that. They don't have to be $1,000, but you can definitely invest some more money into getting better wigs. Even the production quality of your shows and movies has definitely seemed to gone down. And I really like the haves and the have-nots and If Loving You Is Wrong up until these later seasons. And I've noticed that, again, your problem is, Tyler Perry's problem that I'm starting to see is that he has the need to go for quantity over quality, and it is affecting the quality of his work. It's affecting the production, the way things look. It's affecting the cinematography. It's affecting the writing, and it's also affecting the acting. One thing I noticed, I'm not going to completely shit on these actors because I'm not an actress. I've never went to school for it. I've never, done acting work or full-blown acting work, so I can't speak too heavily. But what I will say is this. I do think that Tyler Perry, when I hear people saying, oh, the acting is so bad, the acting's terrible, Tyler Perry needs to hire better actors. Tyler Perry, from what I see, other than the people who have worked in the game for years, like Felicia Rashad and Loretta Devine and Cicely Tyson, Tyler Perry is not looking for seasoned people from what I feel, from what I can see. He really is just looking for people to fill the seats. He has a show idea. He puts out all this work. He just basically funnels out a lot of different shows. It's like 1 year, he has a new show coming out or a new movie coming out. And first of all, I think it's great that he makes all this work, but you also have to make quality work, okay? But what I noticed is that Tyler Perry is looking for people to fill the seats. Now, again, going back to the pro of that is that he's giving people a job. I've seen certain pages do interviews with people who are actors on some of his shows, and they talk about it. Like the woman who played Ruth did an interview with some, black page or some magazine. But I'm saying they're kind of getting a level of, I don't want to say clout, but they're kind of getting a level of recognition, I should say. And who knows, if they do decide to go off and do more work, and if they do decide to go off and pursue bigger acting dreams, they can at least say, hey, I got my start here on Tyler Perry's this. I got my start here. And maybe that work that they do for Tyler Perry gives them the experience to go on and do better work. So you never know. So I'm saying Tyler Perry could be a start for them. But I also do think that Tyler Perry, you're not necessarily working with quality. And again, it's his art. He could do what he can, make it as good or bad as how he wants. But eventually, and he says he doesn't care about what white Hollywood thinks. And that's a good way to look at it. But you're going to have to care about what your critics think, because critics are also your fans and they can also make or break your thing. Now, granted, things are subjective, whether it be on the critic level or the fan base level or the general public level. It's all subjective opinion. But at the same time, it's like Tyler Perry, that doesn't mean you get to be mediocre and lack in quality. And it's also bad that people already think that Black work or Black created work is already less than, undervalued, devalued, already mediocre, and made to be less than. It's bad enough that happens, but it's worse when you actually do something that proves them right. And I'm not going to lie, I do like shows like Ruthless, and I do think shows like Bruh and Sisters have good concepts, but like, especially for Harriet was saying, how are you going to be a man or a Black man writing a show, solely writing a show about Black women, and you're not a Black woman? You need to hire a writer's room, okay? This is what I meant to say in my point. Tyler Perry needs a writer's room, because as I watch these shows and when I watch the reviews for these shows, a lot of people say, yeah, this episode sucked. I remember watching the full season of House of Pain, the new Back Again House of Pain, the new seasons of House of Pain. I remember watching the first 3 episodes, and the dialogue is so dragged out. It took us 3 episodes just to get to the main point of what Malik was trying to say. I mean, we're 10 minutes in, we're getting to the title sequence, or it's taking us 10 minutes and we're in the same scene. So it goes to show, Tyler, you definitely need to get a writer's room. Also, with the haves and the have-nots, the way I look at some of these shows that he's creating that are not sitcoms, like the haves and the have-nots, and not Sisters, Ruthless, and If Loving Was Wrong, they work like soap operas. So when All My Children ended, I remember the haves and the have-nots kind of filled that void a bit, and I really enjoyed it. I loved it from the first season. Now it's like, okay, I think you got to kill off some characters. I also do think you take forever to get to the point. I also do think that you're trying to kind of dumb down your characters, especially for longevity of your shows, and that's not good. Slow pacing. I'm all for good pacing and not quick pacing, but with Tyler Perry, your shows are just like, it's either too fast or too slow, and I think there's no medium. And I also hear about how, you know, shows and movies, you created A Fall from Grace in like 2 weeks. And it's like, yeah, we can tell. I heard Acrimony was filmed in like a month or something. So I'm hearing about full seasons. I heard a full season of Bruh was taped in 4 days. I'm starting to think maybe the actors, you know, are agitated because nobody got any sleep. You're filming a full season of a show in 4 days because you want to put quantity over quality and have no help. And I think, and from what I heard, the real reason he doesn't want a writer's room or didn't want a writer's room is because he didn't want his writers to unionize. And when the writers started unionizing, that, especially from a business owner point of view, I see somewhat of where he's coming from, but I'm saying now your whole empire that you kind of build will eventually crumble if you actually don't get it right. You're trying to build this new building on an old foundation that's just not sturdy enough to handle the new building. So you're worried about them unionizing. And I'm not sure if this happened during the writer's strike, but I remember during the writer's strike of the 2000s, a lot of writers started striking, some quit, and even shows got canceled off of that. So I think that's how Girlfriends and Just Jordan got canceled. But anyway, I heard he did not want to pay his writers and they tried to unionize, and from a business owner aspect, that would have probably pulled more money out of his pocket. And you know what? I think the real reason he keeps trying to go the cheap route with this, because he even posted this on Twitter and Twitter drug him for that. He posted that this is work ethic. I write all my scripts by myself. If you want to be rich, work like you're broke. I really do believe he's trying to hoard all that money and wealth, because I think it comes from a place of, you know, scarcity and he never wants to go broke another day in his life. And I can see that. Trust me. I try to hoard as much money as I can, because you never ever want to go without ever again, because he's been there. So that is probably why he fears hiring a writer's room. Um, but Tyler Perry, it is time you get a writer's room. It is time you spread that, it's time you share that space with black writers. If you want to get good writers, fine. You can still hire black writers. If you still want to give black people a platform, you can do that not only with your actors, but you can also do that with your writers and your cameraman. Like, every time, it's like you really want to put your name on anything, because I'm not sure if that's the plan, but from what it looks like, it really seems like you're trying to hold a monopoly in terms of everything in Black Hollywood. And that's fine to have multiple ownerships of multiple things. I like that Tyler Perry started taking a route by, talking about something different like he does in Ruthless. But I also do see that some of the actors, man, you could tell. It's like you could tell that Tyler Perry sometimes gets his people off of the street, because remember, he's trying to fill the seats. I remember that. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a woman who put up a billboard and said, "Tyler Perry, can you give me a job?" And he gave her a job. So he's giving people jobs. But I also do think in his shows, what's lacking is a lot of subplots. I heard even Oprah said, "Hey, Tyler, it's time to get a writer's room." And they kind of had a slight conflict with that. And I think maybe because, I don't want to say ego, but I think his need to not want to go broke ever again in his life, I do think that that is definitely getting in the way of a lot of things. It's the same thing with Monique. He and Monique kind of share that, thing with the ego thing, where it's like they call it integrity and work ethic and, ownership. But then, like, for Harriet says, why build your own table if you're going to be the only one eating at it? And you have enough influence, or at least in the black sector of things, to, put people on or help people out. And you do that to a certain degree, but in other areas where you could do that, you're lacking. And I think you definitely need to take the advice, because I think one of the main reasons Tyler Perry, if this is true, that he's getting a writer's room, if he gets a writer's room, is he going to allow them to share some of their ideas, or is he going to be stuck in his own head that he won't allow them to, spread out, and he won't allow them to have a say-so in his shows? And he's going to need that. So anyway, yes, tell me what you think in the comment sections down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the links down in my description box. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. And don't forget to stream my single Good Loving on Spotify and all streaming platforms. Thank you so much. I hope you stuck around to the end, and I will see you in the next one.